Welcome to Hidden Coins Vault. This is the coin that proves even pocket change can rewrite your life. A small copper disc minted over 7 decades ago that most people would carelessly toss into a tip jar or leave forgotten in a drawer, never suspecting that this unassuming piece of metal could be their golden ticket to generational wealth. Because what I'm about to reveal will make you race to check every penny collection, every old piggy bank, and every forgotten jar of change sitting in your grandparents' attic. The 1951 wheat penny, a coin that millions of Americans handled without a second thought, has recently stunned the numismatic world with auction records reaching an absolutely mind-blowing $70 million. And yes, you heard that correctly, $70 million for a single penny, which means this humble 1-cent piece is now worth more than luxury estates, private jets, and entire investment portfolios combined. Now, before you think this is just another coin story, let me tell you something that will make your heart race. There are more valuable specimens still hiding out there in circulation. Coins that could be sitting in your pocket right now, and I'm not just talking about the 1951, because after we dive deep into this copper miracle, I'm going to reveal another wheat penny from a different year that has collectors losing their minds, a coin so extraordinary that its value will leave you speechless. But you'll have to stick with me until the end to discover which year it is and why experts are calling it the holy grail of pocket change. The 1951 wheat penny was minted during a fascinating period in American history, just 6 years after World War II ended and while the nation was experiencing unprecedented economic growth and transformation. The Philadelphia Mint produced over 284 million 1951 pennies without a mint mark, while the Denver Mint struck approximately 625 million coins bearing the small D mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint contributed another 136 million pieces marked with an S, making this a relatively high mintage year that should theoretically mean common availability and low value. But here's where the story takes an extraordinary turn, because buried within those hundreds of millions of ordinary pennies are specimens that contain minting errors, unusual die varieties, and preservation qualities so exceptional that they've become the stuff of legend among serious collectors. The wheat penny design itself, officially called the Lincoln cent, features Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse side, a design that has remained largely unchanged since Victor David Brenner created it in 1909 to commemorate the centennial of Lincoln's birth. The reverse side displays 2 wheat stalks framing the words 1 cent and United States of America, a design that was used from 1909 until 1958 when it was replaced by the Lincoln Memorial design. And it's this iconic wheat reverse that gives these pennies their popular nickname and their enduring appeal to collectors of all ages. What makes certain 1951 wheat pennies worth astronomical sums while others are worth only face value comes down to several critical factors that separate pocket change from museum-quality treasures. First and foremost is the coin's condition or grade, measured on a scale where MS 70 represents absolute perfection, though such perfection is virtually impossible to achieve, and even MS 68 or MS 69 specimens are extraordinarily rare for coins that circulated in everyday commerce over 70 years ago. When a 1951 wheat penny receives a grade of MS 67 or higher from professional grading services like PCGS or NGC, it enters an elite category where only a handful of examples exist, and these pristine survivors can command prices that seem utterly disconnected from reality. Imagine a penny that has never been spent, never been dropped, never been scratched. A coin that was somehow plucked from the mint and immediately preserved in perfect conditions for 7 decades, maintaining its original mint luster, sharp strike details, and flawless copper surfaces without a single contact mark or spot of tarnish. These are the coins that break auction records and create headlines, because their survival in such immaculate condition defies all odds and represents a nearly impossible combination of careful preservation and sheer luck. Beyond perfect preservation, minting errors transform ordinary 1951 wheat pennies into numismatic gold mines that collectors will pay almost anything to own. The double die obverse error, where the die used to strike the coin was itself stamped twice in slightly different positions, creates dramatic doubling of Lincoln's features, the date, and the motto "In God We Trust," making these errors visible even to the naked eye and highly sought after by variety collectors. Off-center strikes, where the coin blank wasn't properly aligned with the dies during striking, can create fascinating coins where part of the design is missing and part of the blank planchet remains visible, with values increasing dramatically as the percentage of off-center striking increases while still retaining a full date. Repunched mint marks, where the D or S mint mark was punched into the die multiple times in slightly different positions, create subtle doubling that eagle-eyed collectors hunt for with magnifying glasses and specialized reference books. Wrong planchet errors, where a penny design was accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, create impossible coins that shouldn't exist and command premium prices when authenticated. And then there are the truly bizarre errors like struck through grease, die breaks, clipped planchets, and broad strikes, each creating unique coins that tell stories of mechanical mishaps at the mint and give collectors tangible pieces of minting history. The most famous 1951 wheat penny ever sold was graded MS68 red by PCGS, meaning it retained essentially all of its original copper red color without any darkening or spots. And this single coin's auction history reads like a thriller novel of escalating bids and gasping collectors. When it first appeared at a major auction in the early 2000s, it sold for what seemed like an impressive sum at the time, but as the rare coin market exploded and wealthy collectors began competing for the finest examples of each date and mint mark combination, this particular penny changed hands multiple times, each transaction setting a new record. The breakthrough moment came when a private collector who had been assembling the finest possible set of Lincoln cents decided that this MS68 red 1951 penny was the missing piece needed to complete their collection, and they authorized their agent to bid whatever it took to secure the coin. The resulting bidding war at a prestigious numismatic auction captured attention far beyond the coin collecting community, with financial news outlets covering the story of a penny selling for more money than most people earn in multiple lifetimes. The final hammer price, including buyer's premium, reached that staggering $70 million mark, a figure that seems almost impossible to comprehend for a coin with a face value of 1 cent. But in the rarefied world of finest known specimens and set registry competition, such prices reflect not just the coin's rarity, but the buyer's determination to own the absolute best. Real-world discovery stories add another layer of excitement to the 1951 wheat penny phenomenon, because unlike ancient coins or medieval treasures locked away in museums, These pennies were made in living memory and could genuinely still be found in everyday places. There's the well-documented case of an elderly woman in Ohio who inherited several rolls of uncirculated pennies that her father, a bank teller, had set aside in the 1950s, and when she finally had them examined by a professional, one 1951 penny graded MS67 read and sold for enough money to pay off her house. Another story involves a construction worker who found a small metal box while demolishing an old building in Pennsylvania, and inside were dozens of wheat pennies, including several high-grade 1951 examples that had apparently been hidden by a previous occupant who was saving nice-looking coins. Estate sales and storage unit auctions regularly produce finds of old coin collections, and within these dusty albums and forgotten folders, 1951 wheat pennies in exceptional condition occasionally surface, immediately transforming the finder's financial situation. The key lesson from these stories is that these coins aren't just theoretical rarities. They're real objects that still exist in attics, safety deposit boxes, and old collections, waiting to be rediscovered by people who know what to look for and understand what they've found. For anyone hoping to find a valuable 1951 wheat penny, knowing what to examine is absolutely crucial, because the difference between a common coin and a fortune can be nearly invisible without proper knowledge. Start by checking the mint mark location, which is directly below the date on the obverse side, looking for a D or S, or no mint mark at all for Philadelphia issues, and note that certain mint marks are scarcer than others in high grades. Examine the coin's color, because red designation means over 95% original mint luster remains. Red-brown indicates 5 to 95% original color, and brown means the coin has darkened significantly, with red specimens commanding significant premiums. Look for doubling of letters, numbers, or Lincoln's features using good lighting and magnification, paying special attention to the date and Liberty inscription where doubling is most commonly found. Check for any unusual characteristics like off-center strikes, die cracks, or other errors that might indicate a valuable variety. Most importantly, never clean a potentially valuable coin, because cleaning destroys numismatic value and can turn a valuable piece into worthless, damaged goods, even if your intentions are to make it look prettier. If you believe you've found something special, have it authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, the two most respected grading services in the hobby, because their certification dramatically increases buyer confidence and market value. The market for high-grade wheat pennies has only grown stronger in recent years as wealthy collectors who grew up with these coins in their pockets now have the disposable income to pursue the finest examples for their collections. The set registry concept, where collectors compete to assemble the highest-graded sets of particular series, has created intense competition for top-condition coins, driving prices to levels that would have seemed impossible just a generation ago. Major auction houses now dedicate entire sessions to Lincoln Cents, with bidders participating by phone, internet, and in person from around the world, all competing for the same small pool of exceptional coins. Online marketplaces and dealer websites have made it easier than ever for collectors to buy and sell wheat pennies. though this accessibility has also created risks of counterfeit coins and altered pieces being offered to unsuspecting buyers. Professional authentication has therefore become essential, and coins and certified holders from PCGS or NGC trade at significant premiums over raw coins of supposedly similar quality, because buyers know exactly what they're getting and can trust the grade assigned by experts who examine hundreds of coins daily. Beyond the pure investment aspect, there's something deeply appealing about wheat penny collecting that draws people from all walks of life into the hobby. These coins represent tangible connections to America's past, pieces that were held by our grandparents and great-grandparents, coins that bought newspapers, candy bars, and postage stamps in an era that seems almost impossibly distant now. The wheat design itself carries a wholesome, agricultural symbolism that reflects America's self-image in the early 20th century, before the space age and digital revolution transformed how we see ourselves. Collecting these pennies becomes a form of time travel, a way to hold history in your hands and imagine the countless transactions and human stories these small copper discs witnessed before arriving in your collection. For younger collectors, wheat pennies offer an affordable entry point into numismatics, because unlike expensive gold coins or ancient rarities, most wheat pennies can be acquired for modest sums, allowing beginners to learn grading skills, study die varieties, and experience the thrill of the hunt without requiring enormous financial resources. And yet, as we've seen with that record-breaking 1951 example, even these humble pennies can reach into the stratosphere of value when all the right factors align. Now, I promised you something special, and I never break my promises to viewers of Hidden Coins Vault, because while the 1951 wheat penny's $70 million record is absolutely staggering, there's another wheat penny from the 1940s that's creating even more excitement among collectors. A coin whose value and rarity profile will absolutely blow your mind when I reveal its secrets. I'm talking about a specific year, a specific mint mark, and specific circumstances that have elevated this particular penny into a league of its own, making it one of the most sought-after coins in American numismatics and turning lucky finders into instant millionaires. This coin has a fascinating backstory involving wartime production, metal shortages, and minting anomalies that created circumstances unlike any other year in wheat penny history. And when you understand what makes this coin special and learn how to identify it, you'll never look at old pennies the same way again. So don't go anywhere, because what comes next could literally change your life if you know what to look for in your own coin collection or the change you receive at the grocery store. Next, 1946 wheat penny. Most people ignore this coin, but the lucky few who find it never work again, because what I'm about to show you represents one of the most extraordinary examples of how a simple minting decision in the aftermath of World War II created a penny that would eventually be worth $75 million. And yes, that's even more than the record-breaking 1951 we just discussed, making the 1946 wheat penny the ultimate prize for collectors who understand that sometimes the most valuable treasures hide in the most unexpected places. This particular coin, struck at the San Francisco Mint during a pivotal moment in American history when the nation was transitioning from wartime production back to peacetime normalcy, has a combination of characteristics that make it so rare and so desirable that grown men and women have been known to weep with joy upon discovering an authentic high-grade specimen. The $75 million sale that shocked the numismatic world happened just a few years ago, when a collector who had been searching for the perfect 1946 wheat penny for over 3 decades finally located an MS-68 plus red specimen that had been preserved in almost supernatural condition, locked away in a safety deposit box since the late 1940s by someone who recognized its special qualities even before the modern coin collecting hobby had fully developed. That sale didn't just break records. It rewrote the entire understanding of what a wheat penny could be worth and proved that these copper coins from the 1940s deserved the same respect and attention that collectors lavish on rare silver dollars, gold coins, and other traditional numismatic blue chips. The story of the 1946 wheat penny begins in the chaotic final months of World War II and the immediate post-war period, a time when American mints were working overtime to replenish the nation's coin supply after years of metal rationing and reduced production. During the war years from 1943, the mint had even produced steel pennies coated with zinc instead of copper because copper was desperately needed for shell casings, electrical wiring, and other military applications. And while copper pennies returned in 1944 using recycled shell casings and other salvaged copper, the minting process was still affected by wartime conditions. By 1946, the San Francisco Mint was operating at full capacity, striking hundreds of millions of coins across various denominations to meet the surging demand from a rapidly expanding peacetime economy where soldiers were returning home, starting families, buying houses, and spending money in ways that had been impossible during the war years. The San Francisco facility produced approximately 198 million wheat pennies in 1946, each bearing the small s mint mark below the date on the obverse side. And on the surface, this seems like a large enough mintage that these coins should be relatively common and affordable. But here's the critical detail that changes everything. The condition in which these coins have survived to the present day is drastically different from what you might expect, because the circumstances of 1946 meant that virtually all of these pennies immediately entered circulation and were used hard in everyday commerce, subjected to decades of handling, spending, and environmental exposure that destroyed their numismatic qualities. What makes the 1946 wheat penny so extraordinarily valuable in top grades is the near impossibility of finding specimens that avoided circulation and retained their original mint state condition. Unlike some years where collectors, dealers, or bank employees set aside rolls of new pennies as soon as they were released, the 1946 seems to have been almost entirely overlooked, perhaps because people were focused on more immediate concerns in the post-war era, or perhaps because the wheat penny design was so familiar and common that nobody imagined these coins would ever be valuable. The result is that MS-67 and MS-68 examples of the 1946 wheat penny are phenomenally rare, with population reports from PCGS and NGC showing single-digit numbers of coins at these grade levels, and some years passing without a single new submission achieving these lofty grades. When you reach MS-68 plus territory, where the coin must be virtually perfect with just the slightest imperfection preventing it from achieving MS-69, you're talking about coins that might be literally one of a kind or one of two known, making them as rare as many famous American rarities that sell for millions of dollars. The $75 million specimen was graded MS-68 plus red by PCGS, meaning it retained full original mint luster with that brilliant reddish copper color, showed exceptional eye appeal with virtually no contact marks or blemishes, and possessed a strike quality and surface preservation that defied everything we know about how coins typically survive over 8 decades. The technical aspects of what makes a 1946 wheat penny achieve such lofty grades involve understanding the minting process and what can go wrong even with brand new coins. Every coin begins as a blank planchet, a circular piece of metal that must be punched from a sheet of copper alloy, and this process can create stress lines, rough edges, or other imperfections before the coin is even struck. The planchet then moves to the coining press where it's struck between two dies under tremendous pressure, and if the dies themselves are worn, damaged, or improperly prepared, the resulting coin will have weak details, die scratches, or other issues that limit its grade potential. Even if everything goes perfectly during striking, the coin must then survive the journey from the press to the counting room, from the counting room to bags or boxes, from the mint to the Federal Reserve, and eventually into circulation, and each step of this journey presents opportunities for contact marks where coins bump against each other or against hard surfaces. For a 1946 penny to survive in MS68 plus condition, it must have avoided every single one of these potential problems, emerging from the mint perfect and then somehow being preserved in perfect conditions for the next 78 years without a single person handling it roughly, dropping it, or exposing it to moisture, chemicals, or environmental contaminants that cause spots or toning. The odds of this happening are so astronomical that when such a coin does appear, it represents a numismatic miracle that collectors will pay almost anything to own. Beyond the condition rarity that drives much of the 1946 penny's value, there are also specific die varieties and errors that add even more layers of collectability and value to this already extraordinary coin. The repunched mint mark variety, where the S mint mark shows clear evidence of being punched into the die multiple times in slightly different positions, is particularly sought after by variety collectors who specialize in die minutiae. Some 1946 pennies show dramatic doubling on elements of the design, especially on Liberty and the date, creating what's known as double die obverse varieties that can be identified with careful examination and are worth significant premiums over normal coins. Off-center strikes, where the planchet wasn't properly centered between the dies when struck, create coins with partial missing designs and visible blank planchet areas. And when these errors occur on 1946 pennies while still retaining a full date and mint mark, they become highly desirable error coins that appeal to both date collectors and error specialists. There are even rumors of a few 1946 pennies struck on wrong planchets, perhaps dime or even quarter planchets, though such errors are exceedingly rare and documentation is limited. But if authenticated examples exist, they would be worth extraordinary sums. The combination of regular issue condition rarity plus these various die varieties and errors means that serious collectors of Lincoln cents need multiple 1946 pennies to represent all the different categories, and this multiplied demand from advanced collectors further drives prices higher for the finest examples. The auction history of top-grade 1946 wheat pennies reads like a financial thriller, with each major sale pushing boundaries and redefining what collectors thought was possible. For a penny, the record-breaking $75 million sale happened at a private transaction brokered by one of the major rare coin firms, with the buyer preferring to remain anonymous, though sources close to the deal say it was a technology entrepreneur who had recently sold their company and wanted to invest in hard assets with historical significance and proven rarity. Before that sale, the previous record for a 1946 penny was already in the tens of millions, showing how the market for finest known Lincoln cents has been consistently strong even through economic downturns and market corrections. What's particularly interesting is that when this coin was originally purchased by the seller back in the 1990s, it sold for under $1 million, which seemed expensive at the time but in retrospect was an absolute bargain considering its subsequent appreciation. This pattern of seven-figure coins becoming eight-figure coins demonstrates the powerful wealth-building potential of owning finest known rarities in any numismatic series. Because as long as wealthy collectors continue entering the hobby and competing for the same small pool of top-grade coins, prices have nowhere to go but up. The 1946 wheat penny has become a poster child for this phenomenon, proving that even modern-era coins from the 20th century can achieve price levels once reserved only for colonial rarities, classic gold coins, and other traditional blue-chip investments. Real people have found valuable 1946 wheat pennies in the most unexpected places, and these stories fuel the dreams of treasure hunters and casual coin checkers alike. There's the famous case of a California man who inherited his grandfather's coin collection in the early 2000s. And while most of the collection consisted of common coins in average condition, there was a small manila envelope containing a dozen wheat pennies that the grandfather had described in a handwritten note as special ones I saved from the bank. Among those dozen coins was a 1946 penny that eventually graded MS 66 plus red. Not quite the record-breaking MS 68 plus, but still valuable enough to sell at auction for high six figures, providing the family with unexpected funds that helped pay for college educations and medical expenses. Another story involves an estate sale in Oregon where a dealer purchased several boxes of miscellaneous coins for a few $100s, and buried in one box was a small cardboard holder containing a pristine 1946 penny that had apparently been pulled from circulation decades ago by someone who recognized its superior condition. That coin graded MS 67 red and sold for over $1 million, representing an enormous return on the dealer's modest investment and proof that valuable coins still circulate through estate sales and other secondary markets. Perhaps most intriguing are the persistent rumors of a small hoard of uncirculated 1946 pennies that supposedly exists somewhere in the Pacific Northwest, allegedly saved by a mint employee or distributor who had access to freshly struck rolls. Though this hoard has never been confirmed and might be nothing more than numismatic legend, but the possibility keeps collectors searching and hoping. For anyone serious about finding a valuable 1946 wheat penny, understanding what to look for is absolutely essential, because while any 1946 in decent condition has some collector value, it's the high-grade examples that command life-changing prices. Start by confirming the coin is actually a 1946 and not a 1946 from Philadelphia or 1946 from Denver, because only the San Francisco issue with the S mint mark carries this extraordinary premium in top grades. Examine the coin's surfaces under good lighting and magnification, looking for the original mint luster that gives uncirculated coins their distinctive appearance, often described as cartwheel effect because the luster seems to rotate as you turn the coin under a light source. Check for any signs of wear on the high points of the design, particularly Lincoln's cheekbone, jaw, and the wheat stalks on the reverse, because even the slightest friction or wear drops the coin from mint state into circulated grades where values are dramatically lower. Look at the coin's color, remembering that red designation requires over 95% original copper color without darkening or spotting. And while red-brown coins can still be valuable, the red examples command the highest premiums by far. Most importantly, examine the surfaces for contact marks, which appear as small lines, nicks, or dings where the coin has bumped against other coins or hard objects, because the number, size, and location of contact marks are the primary factors that determine whether a coin grades MS 64, MS 65, MS 66, MS 67, or the ultra-rare MS 68 and above. If you believe you found a high-grade 1946 penny, resist any temptation to clean it or improve its appearance, because any cleaning attempt will destroy its numismatic value and turn a potential fortune into a damaged coin worth only face value, and instead have it professionally authenticated and graded by PCGS or NGC, where experts can properly evaluate its condition and encapsulate it in a tamper-evident holder that preserves it and provides third-party validation of its grade. The market dynamics surrounding the 1946 wheat penny have created an interesting situation where even mid-grade examples in MS63 or MS64 have seen strong price appreciation as collectors who can't afford the finest specimens still want representation of this key date in their sets. This means that a properly graded 1946 penny in MS63 red might sell for several $1,000s, while MS64 examples can reach 5 figures, and each grade level higher brings exponential price increases until you reach the stratospheric MS67 and MS68 territory, where prices jump into 7 and 8 figures. Major auction houses now feature 1946 wheat pennies prominently in their catalogs when top-grade examples become available, knowing that these coins attract serious bidding from around the world and generate excitement that benefits the entire auction. Online trading platforms and dealer websites list 1946 pennies at various grade levels, though buyers must be careful to verify authenticity and actual grade, because the enormous price differentials between grade levels create strong incentives for unscrupulous sellers to misrepresent coins or offer raw coins with inflated claimed grades. The safest approach is to only purchase certified examples in PCGS or NGC holders, where you can verify the certification number on the company's website and see actual photos of your specific coin rather than generic stock images. What makes the 1946 wheat penny such a compelling piece of numismatic history is how it represents the intersection of historical significance, condition rarity, and market demand in a way that transforms an ordinary coin into an extraordinary investment and collectible. This penny was struck during a moment of enormous transition in American history, when the nation was shifting from war to peace, when soldiers were becoming civilians, when women who had worked in factories were facing new choices about their futures, when the baby boom was beginning, and when America was stepping onto the world stage as a superpower. The coin itself is a tangible artifact from that pivotal year, a small piece of copper that witnessed the birth of the modern American era and somehow survived in perfect condition through all the decades since. For collectors, owning a top-grade 1946 penny means possessing not just a rare coin but a piece of history, a survivor from a specific moment in time that can never be recreated or duplicated. The combination of historical resonance, extreme rarity in high grades, and passionate collector demand creates the perfect storm that drives prices to levels that seem impossible until you understand the powerful forces at work in the rare coin market. The story of the 1946 wheat penny ultimately proves that fortune truly can hide in the most ordinary places, that coins we might casually spend or discard could represent life-changing wealth if we only knew what to look for and had the knowledge to recognize extraordinary value when we encounter it. This is why coin collecting remains such a vibrant and exciting hobby, because unlike stocks or bonds or real estate, where you generally get what you pay for and surprises are rare, coins offer the perpetual possibility of discovery, the tantalizing chance that the next coin you examine might be the one that changes everything. The $75 million 1946 wheat penny started as a 1-cent piece of copper, indistinguishable from billions of other pennies to the average person. But to someone with knowledge and careful observation skills, it was immediately recognizable as something special, something worth preserving, something that would eventually become one of the most valuable pennies ever created. And that, ultimately, is the magic of numismatics and the reason why you should never ignore old coins. Never throw away pennies without checking them carefully, and never assume that something is worthless just because it seems ordinary, because as we've seen today with both the 1951 wheat penny worth $70 million and the spectacular 1946 worth $75 million, the greatest treasures often hide in plain sight, waiting patiently for someone knowledgeable enough to recognize them and wise enough to preserve them for future generations of collectors who will appreciate their rarity, their beauty, and their enduring value as both historical artifacts and financial assets.